Given complete control of genetic editing, would you tailor your future child to your ideal specifications? Would you choose romantic partners based on gene compatibility? What happens to those who remain in their natural form, the faith births and degenerates? These are some of the themes explored in Andrew Nichols' Gattaca. The concept of genetic editing is what 20th century science fiction scholar Darko Suvin would define as a novum. Suvin's novum is a scientifically plausible innovation which causes cognitive estrangement in the audience. Cognitive estrangement involves separating the reader from the work in order to encourage them to think about society in a new way. It serves to create a narrative world that can be used to contradict the status quo, convince the oppressed to resist, and highlight various flaws present in humanity. In other words, the novum allows the audience to reflect on themselves from a third-person perspective. Gattaca has more than one novum: gene editing and the capacity for interplanetary human missions. Vincent Freeman dreams of traveling to Jupiter, but his status as a faith birth prevents him from qualifying for the space program. The movie focuses not on the fact that these advanced technologies exist, but rather how Vincent's life and emotions are impacted by their presence. It is easy to believe that a science fiction story is dedicated to explaining the novum, explaining what makes the sci-fi world different from reality. Science fiction's predecessor, classical utopia, was designed to lay out a society which the author felt would solve humanity's problems. These, by definition, had no conflict. They were dedicated to the principles of improving society. On the other hand, dystopia and its close partner science fiction deal in conflict. It's what gives them meaning. The characters' collective reactions to the novum imbue the science fiction story with significance. The point of a story which only outlines the new features of a society is just that, a single point. It is a destination of a thought experiment. What makes that dot point in the directional sense of the word is how the novum impacts the people. The novum functions to reveal something about the characters themselves.
Only I don't have 20 or 30 years left in mine. Mine is already 10,000 beats overdue.
It's not possible.
You are the authority on what is not possible. Aren't you, Irene? They have got you looking so hard for any flaw that after a while, that's all that you see.
Space exploration and aliens are common features of science fiction. Humans are infatuated with and terrified by the final frontier, and it is a great setting to isolate specific elements of humanity that a creator wishes to dissect. Duncan Jones's 2009 release Moon is a striking example of the effectiveness of this concept. The movie takes place on a lunar mining base currently staffed by astronaut Sam Bell and his AI companion Gertie. Nearing the end of his 3-year shift working on the moon, Sam gets in a rover accident and is presumed dead by the AI, so Gertie follows company protocol and activates a new, younger clone of Sam. However, the older Sam makes his way back to the lunar base, which leads him to find out he is one of many clones tending to the mine. The two Sams recruit Gertie to help them send the younger Sam to Earth to expose the horrific lie that the mining company has been perpetuating. After helping them, Gertie advises the astronauts to wipe his memory and reboot him so that he cannot compromise their mission, a sacrifice that humanizes the AI. The audience is not supposed to be wowed by the scenario of the movie, but rather how the characters act within the framework of their world. Older Sam sacrifices himself to prevent the mining company from knowing of younger Sam's escape, a tragic example of how the novum can be used to make a story's insights on humanity cut deep. A fairly traditional tragedy narrative arc is presented in a uniquely plausible world to pique a different area of the audience's attention than a Shakespearean story. The dawn of science fiction film also began with the moon. Méliès's legendary film, A Trip to the Moon, features a very memorable storybook style and some impressive special effects. It paints the journey to the moon as a great achievement, with large segments of the movie dedicated simply to praising the wizard scientists behind the mission. From the initial debate over the execution of the project, through the trip, and until the closing frame, the actions of the scientists and spectators guide the audience through the journey. The feeling that lingers in the audience is not one of fascination with the lunar landscape, but rather appreciation for the accomplishments of the humans in the film. Aliens are another common concept in science fiction. They are a natural extension of the fear and wonder that comes with the unknowns of space. An alien race mirroring a group here on Earth can allow for nuanced commentary if it is done well, a common process used by authors fearing prosecution from the ruling party due to the dissenting nature of their content. Per aspera ad astra cuts to the core of what it means to be human by showcasing the hardships faced by a clone from another world who undergoes intense scrutiny on Earth. Filmmaker Richard Viktorov does a number of things to illustrate that Nia is not quite human. The costuming of Ilya Metyelkina features bleached and buzzed hair and makeup designed to accentuate the size of her eyes. Match cuts and manipulation of the playback speed of the film are used to make her move in unnatural ways. The audience is not supposed to relate to her at the start of the movie, and it is the journey to understanding her motivations, to seeing her as a human, that makes this movie significant. Near the end of the movie, humans go to her homeworld to clean up the horrifically polluted planet. However, in the end it is only Nia that is capable of stopping the biomass which threatens to engulf the planet. She overcomes the flaws of her own society in order to save her misguided people. The phonetic similarity between Nia and Neo is no coincidence. She is the embodiment of new, the change that her people need. She represents the reformist attitudes which gave rise to the era of perestroika in the Soviet Union at the time. Having been locked in the system for so long, quite literally being mind-controlled, she channels what is inside her to fight back against the biomass in a heroic display of strength. She's no longer alien to the viewer, and her humanity resonates on a far greater level than any of the appeals to wonder in the movie. Human connection is not just something showcased in narrative films, however. It is also used in arguably the most influential piece of science media to have run on television. Cosmos was a show crafted specifically to show the general public that science can be accessible. Carl Sagan wished to see the whole of humanity united under the banner of scientific progress. Many people remember the show as something that introduced them to scientific concepts. There are numerous portrayals of things in the universe that we could never hope to see with our own eyes. But the show does not just display images of space and explain their significance in the definitional way of a textbook. Instead, the creators focused on the implications of these scientific marvels on our humanity. The show hooked viewers not with the science, but the human connection. The modern remake of the show aimed to inspire the public in the same way that the original had, and their approach to space is just the same as in fictional media. Neil deGrasse Tyson, the host of the reboot, explained in his interview with Bill Moyers exactly what he wished to convey in his recreation of the classic series.
You need to think of Cosmos not as a documentary about science. By the way, since then, there have been many documentaries about science, and it's quite a fertile way of delivering the viewer to the frontier, or bringing the frontier to the viewer. So that's not the issue here, because we all remember Cosmos, and so many of these other documentaries maybe live their moment, but then they fade. Why did Cosmos not fade? It's not because it brought you the latest science, although it also did that. It's because it displayed for you why science matters, why science is an enterprise that should be cherished as an activity of the free human mind, because it transforms who we are, how we live, and it gives us an understanding of our place in the universe. And it's these states of mind that you carry with you for the rest of your life.
By piquing the attention of viewers with pseudo-narratives discussing the scientists involved in the discoveries and how the science affects fictional characters, the Cosmos creators convinced everyone to stick around for the actual science. They disguised the technical information with a coating of sugary narrative, a truly brilliant tactic. Like Tyson and Sagan, the Cosmos writers were masters of convincing people that science is just another reflection of our humanity. Anne Druyan, a writer of both iterations of Cosmos, has been instrumental in cultivating a public connection to science over the last 4 decades. Druyan was a creative director for the Voyager program and designed the famous golden records containing a representation of our art, science, and culture at the time of launch. This record is functionally the same as all other space media. It is a human reaction to the vast, strange environment that surrounds them. Just as it would give a distant civilization some perspective on how Earth looks and feels to us, space media gives the audience perspective on how the creators feel about their existence. Barring Méliès, all of the filmmakers up to this point have taken significant influence from one movie in particular, Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. There are numerous reasons that this movie is consistently rated within the top 100 movies of all time, and is one of science fiction's most analyzed films. For some, the deliberate pacing of the movie is grueling. There are a plethora of lengthy shots which feature space and technology. For example, multiple minutes are spent on a scene showing the rotational sinking of a ship in a space station. Kubrick did state that a mission of his when making the movie was to accurately portray space, unlike many of its cheesy predecessors. However, the pacing also gives the viewer ample time to analyze the characters' nuanced reactions to their surroundings. The accuracy of the science in the movie simply gives credibility to the ways in which the characters act. The film is significant not purely because of its novum, but instead because this novum gives rise to a wide array of responses from the people in the movie. The movie also posits a central theme that the meaning of the cosmos comes from intelligence's progression through space and time. Each appearance of the famous black monolith is accompanied by a quantum leap in technology. This scene is a clear link between violence and technology. It presents the terrible duality of progress, that we cannot help but devise escalating ways to destroy each other as we progress. Furthermore, there is a cut where the direction in which the bone is spinning reverses. Assuming this is the same bone, this would mean that we are now looking at it from the opposite side. In other words, Kubrick is showing the bone from the perspective of each of the warring groups of early hominids. This further connects the conflict not just to technology, but to humanity itself. Another instance in which Kubrick tips his hand is the briefing on moon base Clavius. Dr. Floyd stresses the importance of secrecy to those in the meeting room, stating that their cover-up is necessary to prevent society from harming itself. He claims time must be taken to fully understand the monolith before it is revealed. The scene ends just as another executive is taking the stand to give the scientific briefing, something that the audience does not get to see. This is because Kubrick did not set out to explain every detail of the novum, the monolith, but instead wishes to explore the cultural implications. He's more interested with the lies, the emotional struggles, and the complacency of those tasked with censoring information from the public.
Dr. Floyd, have you any idea how much longer this cover story will have to be maintained?
I don't know, Bill. I suppose it'll be maintained as long as deemed necessary by the council. And of course there must be adequate time for a full study to be made of the situation before any thought can be given to making a public announcement. Oh yes, as some of you already know, the council has requested that formal security oaths be obtained in writing from everyone who has any knowledge of this event. Ah, were there any more questions?
This, combined with the presence of AI with human traits and humans with robotic traits later in the film, creates a very strong nexus between humanity, technology, and violence. The film is asserting that these things are inseparable. If science fiction is truly about the intricacies of stellar landscapes, unknown creatures lurking in the abyss, or cosmic phenomena occurring orders of magnitude out of human perception, then why is so much screen time devoted to the close-up? Explaining the novum is not the purpose of the work, but a beautiful way to expand the scope of a story. The novum establishes a perspective to objectively view narratives that would typically be plagued by bias. It allows us to reflect on ourselves, to see what it truly means to be human.